Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about some embarrassing stories about plants that I have killed. So when we see those beautiful pictures on Instagram and the gardening blogs and everything, one thing we forget that even when someone is an experienced gardener, even when someone is have done the gardening for a long time, we all will kill plants someday or the other. So I wanted to tell you about this because these are some of the very common plants that I've killed, and maybe I can share you why and what I think I've done to kill it, and maybe that helps you in making a decision on whether or not this plant works for you at your location, and then maybe you can learn from my mistakes. So let's dive into it. The first plant that we're going to talk about is my favorite string of bananas plant. I had this two very beautiful large hanging basket string of bananas plant, and they did I bought it in March, first week of March, and the moment it came into my house, it was wintry in Kolkata, so the humidity was very low, and it was a little bit of, temperature was around 25 or less than that, not more than that. So then around the last week of March and second last week of March, the temperature started rising. And when the temperature started rising, at first each one of the bananas, they started shriveling up, they started drying out after shriveling, and I couldn't for the love of God figure out the watering schedule for it. So as and when April approached, first it was a couple of strings, then it was some more strings, and it started rotting and all of that. I stopped watering it. Even then it started rotting and continued rotting. So there are a couple of reasons why. First of all, any string of pearls or string of bananas. String of pearls is the second plant that I've killed that I'm going to talk about. String of bananas also is a succulent. It doesn't thrive when the humidity rises, and when the humidity rises, also the soil content, from what I understand, I bought it from a nursery, so they tend to put plants in a normal potting soil conditions, so they don't think about much because they have to sell the plants, right? And sometimes they buy it from outside. Just they buy the plant and the root system. They don't even buy a pot and a soil, and they put it there in their own pots and all of that. And what happens is a lot of time they just have coco peat and soil that retains more moisture. What I should have done is immediately replaced it with a completely soilless, nearly soilless mixture, which would comprise of a lot of exactly like orchid barks, right? Orchid soil, the plant barks and some charcoal and a little bit of perlite, and this should have been the soil mixture, but the soil had a lot of soil content in it that was retaining moisture, and it ultimately slowly deteriorated and died, because whenever I used to water them, they have very shallow roots, but the pot was of plastic and it was retaining more water. That should have been my guess. That's what I learned from it. And also I'm very averse to buying a succulent in the place that I live, because here, the humidity is very high and it's very hot most of the year. And what I've concluded as well is that I should not try out so many succulents because the weather is not very favorable for them here. Instead, I think I'm going to concentrate on philodendrons and monsteras and calatheas and pothos and all the other plants that I have here, raphidophoras and what else. So these are the plants that survive. So I don't think succulents survive very well. The same thing I would say for SOP, that is string of pearls. So string of pearls I bought twice and I killed twice. So the string of bananas, I bought two sets of them together, and string of pearls, I bought it twice and tried, and both the times it got infected with mealybugs and all of that, and they started shriveling up. I kept it out in the sun. Even then it was not happy. It was too much of heat for it. The ideal weather conditions would be temperature up to 25 and a little bit of dry conditions. and the soil component has to be nearly soilless. That's what these two guys survive on. Actually, these two guys, and I'm going to talk about a third plant that I killed, anthuriums, whatever it's spelled it. It's a beautiful plant. It was an eye-catcher plant that I kept it in the drawing room. First mistake, because my drawing room doesn't get any light. So it started deteriorating very fast, but it was a statement plant, right? Everybody came in and thought it was a fake plant. And I kept it there, but it started having this brown spots. What happens is, I'll link a post below. You can check it out in the description below. A fellow gardener shared a very good story about how they care for anthuriums in Indian weather, especially. I'm gonna buy another one and probably gonna implement it. What happens is, I bought it from the nursery, and the nursery guy said, anyways, it's gonna die in 6 months. You can take it. It looks good. So I thought, okay, why will the plant die if I care for it? Then I took it back home and I watered it very less. Like whenever the soil was completely dry, then only I watered it. But it still started developing infection, brown spots, and all of that, and slowly died. So what the fellow gardener said was that this is what happens in most of the plant nurseries. Like I mentioned, that they buy the plant just in the form of fruit. So we have to always learn where are anthuriums found. Anthuriums originally are found in there's this huge tree in forest, and anthuriums grow on top of that bark itself. So they are not in actually soil in their actually original habitat. So they derive their moisture from air. So which is why anthuriums can do very well in water. Actually, they can survive very well in water. So what happens is, when you bring an anthurium home, what I should have done instead is that pull it out entirely, check the soil component. Again, I'm 100% sure right now that soil component was 100% coco peat. I did not realize it then, but it was retaining too much water after I watered it, even though I watered it every 10 days. Sometimes every 7 days, sometimes every 10 days. Even then, whenever I was watering it, it was kind of like retaining water, and that started rotting roots. A lot of times what happens is, because the nursery also keeps it in coco peat, because they have to fill the pot, right? They have to put it in a pot. They don't have soil, they have coco peat filled soil, and they put that soil. So they don't invest in good orchid like soil for these plants to sell you. Their job is to sell you the plants. So you bring it back home, you pull it out completely. If there is even coco peat solution there, do not use that soil, and immediately pull it out. Inspect for root rot. So anthuriums bought from nursery, if they were in coco peat from in the nursery, they also water it there. So definitely will have root rot, and even though you care perfectly for it, it will die. So what you have to do is check for root rot, cut those roots with sterilized scissors, and then put it to water. And when the roots develop a little bit more, then transfer it into a completely orchid-like soil mixture. So all the information will be there in the link below that I share. It's in one of the Facebook groups. So I guess that's pretty much it. Anthuriums. Okay, two more embarrassing stories I'm going to share you in this part 1 of plants I've killed. Xanadu. I killed Xanadu plant. Can you believe it? It's a very common plant, and it should not have been killed here, and I killed it. So the thing is that Xanadu, I had a lot of experience. The plant looked beautiful. So what I did was, I put it in a darker room in top of a dressing table, and what happened was, it did not get much light, and then by the time I pulled it out, it loves light. It loves bright indirect light. Bright, like there are lots of Xanadus in my community garden here. They get a lot of bright indirect light. Bright matlab, you can wear sunglasses there, kind of. Even though sun is directly not catching your eyes, you can wear sunglasses and comfortably see. So that is the kind of light they love. That's the only mistake I did for that, and it started deteriorating, and I couldn't save it. I again tried to keep it in a much more lighter environment, but even then it was not enough, and it suddenly went out and died. So I decided to let it go at that point. Last plant that I'm going to talk about that I've killed is adeniums. Okay, they are beautiful plants. They are very easy to take care of in India. I'm embarrassed because I killed such a beautiful plant. It started with, it had a difficult, it was starting to lose its leaves because it was going dormant, and I suspected that maybe it was also because of its root conditions. So, what happened was that I decided to pull it out and cut off the root system that was rotted, and then finally I did that, and it could not take the shock well because I did it at the wrong time. So the moral of the story here is you can't mess with a plant when it's going into dormancy. You can't just take it out and try cut it. It would have survived if I would have done it in when its season was there, which is from March onwards. It flowers very well throughout the year, from the advent of a little warmth after the winter goes in, and then it kind of starts sprouting leaves and flowers and birds and whatnot, and then by the time it's November, it goes into dormancy again, and then it stays into dormancy for a little while, and then it comes back again in March. What I did was I did this cutting in November, I think, just when it was going into dormancy. That was not a good idea. I actually wanted to display its roots, so I cut it and put a plastic pot on top so that its roots are visible on top. So I was trying to do a bonsai thing, and I ended up killing the plant. If I would have left it as is, maybe it would have survived, maybe it would not have, I don't know, but that's what I did. I killed this beautiful plant because of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe you learn something from this for these group of plants, something that I've messed up that you should not do or should not expect from the plant. That is it. I hope gardening is not always, all the plants looking beautiful all the time. It's a Instagram, Facebook world, right? So plants don't always look beautiful. They sometimes go sick, they sometimes die, they sometimes a lot of things happen to plants. So this video is an attempt to normalize gardening and to learn from the failures of each other. So from my failures, maybe some of you can learn, and hopefully that helps you in some way to understand that sometimes you should not expect so much more from a plant like I did with Xanadu and anthuriums. You have to give it an ideal condition when you bring them from the nursery to home. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you like it. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I have a lot of updates and photos to share with you for plants. Hope you like it, and that's it.